For those of you who aren't parents yet, may not understand the worst fear that every parent has, which is never seeing your child again. And it is very heartbreaking because since your child is younger, you expect that the child will bury you. This, unfortunately, was the case for the Hjalmarssons. Hopefully, I'm getting their surname correctly. As their son, Kevin, randomly went missing from a playground in their neighborhood. Hey guys, welcome to True Crime Comments Quest, where we delve into the mysteries of true crime cases that you've requested not just on my channel, but other True Crime YouTubers' comments as well, which may or may not have been overlooked. This case today was gotten from Bella Fiore's comment section by the name Laisha, saying, have you ever heard of the Kevin Hjalmarsson case? He was a 4-year-old boy found dead. I looked it up and it was indeed a very sad case, so let's dive right in. The date is 16th of August 1998. It's a Sunday and the last day before school resumes. Kevin is home with his mother, whose attention is divided because Isabella is returning home. Isabella is Kevin's older sister and she's supposed to be back home by 6 p.m. from boarding school. Kevin loves to ride his bike. He doesn't go anywhere without his bike. So since he had nothing to do, he decides he's going to do that to kill the boredom that he was feeling at that moment. So 6 p.m. rolls around and Isabella is back from school, boarding school. And this obviously takes the attention of her parents, the Hjalmarssons, for a while. Then they begin to notice it's getting dark, so they go outside to search for Kevin, but Kevin is nowhere to be found. They obviously quickly realize that Kevin is nowhere near the house, so they gather everyone, neighbors, grandparents, and head out to all possible places they know that Kevin could be playing at. They eventually reach a popular playground that they know that Kevin and his friends are always playing around, and it was empty. There was no sign of any kids that were playing around on that day. This is when they decide to check the boats that were beside the playground, thinking maybe he got a curious mind to check the boats over there, just curiosity as a kid. So on getting through the trees, they find Kevin's bicycle near a tree on the left part of the football pitch playground. This can't be right, Kevin's mom says, because Kevin never goes anywhere without his bike. So this is definitely a bad sign. So they all begin screaming and calling Kevin's name as they're getting closer to the riverbank. And on getting to the riverbank, they see Kevin. Kevin's grandfather, to be exact, spotted him first. But Kevin was dead. He was left beside the riverbank with one arm in the water and some injuries on his body. Kevin's grandmother rushed to him to try to give him CPR while Kevin's mom was crying and calling the police. The police and ambulance rushed him to the hospital in an attempt to try to revive him, but by 11 p.m. that day, he was declared dead with the cause termed death by drowning. Kevin's parents, as you would think, couldn't accept that this was the case, as they kept telling authorities that Kevin hated swimming and especially the water. So there was no reasonable explanation why he would want to go near a body of water in the first place, especially without anyone being around. The authorities knew they had to look into it because it didn't seem like he actually drowned at all. Except that Kevin's shoes and one of his socks were missing. He had bruises in the front of his neck and his abdomen, even though that can be caused by friction of the water moving him back to the shore, but that was very unlikely to be the case. It was also very unlikely he drowned because only one part of his body, which was his left arm, was wet. And if Kevin was actually swimming, most likely he would have been in the shallow part of the water. So the percentage chance of him drowning in this case is very low. The authorities decided to carry out an autopsy. They declared that Kevin's eyes were whitish and were a clear sign of strangulation. So he also had bruises on his genitals, showing signs that he was sexually assaulted, coupled up with the fact that he had sand in his underwear, which made it clear that there was no sign of drowning involved here, just murder. Now that this had been established, an investigation began in the area. Students that were near the school where the football pitch was found one shoe and purple socks and took it to the police. The police, obviously taking this as a clue, came to the conclusion that this is where Kevin was killed. And during the investigation of the area, they found the murder weapon used to kill him, and it was a 7 centimeter stick that was pressed against Kevin's neck. The police at this point decide to start questioning Kevin's neighbors and people that live around the playground. And during this, they make it known to them and the public that Kevin was also sexually assaulted. Kevin's parents were grief-stricken, and it did not just end there. Because when the case went around the town, people were blaming the parents for the neglect of their child, Kevin. But most people showed them their love and compassion. And it's just so sad that Kevin's parents actually had to deal with that. So they decided to track Kevin's whereabouts on the day that he was found, and it went like this. Kevin left his house, and on his way, he was going to his best friend Robin's house. On the way to Robin's house, he met a friend called Robert. Robert is friends with also Robin and most boy children in the neighborhood. So he ends up getting to Robin's house, but as he gets there, Robin's parents kind of break his heart by telling him that Robin can't come out to play because they have guests coming, but he could come another day. So he leaves, and as he's riding his bike to the playground, he met Felix. Felix is not the boy's real name, by the way, but the boys around the neighborhood looked up to Felix because Felix was the only one that had a Spider-Man bike. I know it's a kid thing. I know it's not important, but like most of the times when we were kids, also like lunchbox, whoever had a Hannah Montana bag and lunchbox paired together was deemed the coolest. I guess that was what Felix used to climb up the radar at that time, so it's not really a big deal. So locals also reported hearing screaming on that day, by the way, but they said that they couldn't understand where the screaming was coming from. They also reported that they had seen a registered pedophile helping Kevin cross the street from around 12 p.m. But no one seemed to have concrete proof of this because the pedophile had an alibi that cleared him out and did not even put his name in the area at all by the time they wanted to check for the timestamps of where that pedophile that was living around that area was at that time, if what I'm saying makes sense. So the police appealed to the public that anyone that has any information to lead them to the murderer would get rewarded, but this yielded nothing as all the information that was coming forward led to a dead end, and fear spooked up in the community because now everyone believed that there was a murderer on the loose. The police were under a lot of pressure, and it didn't help that there were rumors going around of the fact that the international students who had been saved from the war saw Kevin on the playground and did that to him. So they started investigating some of the kids, and it made them even more confused because some of them were lying, and it wasn't known if it was fear or the fact that they were guilty. But they did get information from kids that told the police officers where Kevin's shoe was, and that it was in fact Felix that had told one of the foreign refugees to check behind the shed. The police investigated Felix and Felix obviously said that he had nothing to do with it, and he never hung out with Kevin at all that day. So the kids disputed this though, and since there were a lot of truth and lies, and Felix confirmed that he was in the library by the word of his mouth, the police just kept it pushing and kept on investigating. Eventually, police hired a child psychologist called Hjalmarrson, who was an expert, and he made the children comfortable by playing with them, taking them to eat so that it's comfortable for them to speak. Robin and his brother were on a trip to the grocery store with their father, Viner, when Robin said, "I saw Kevin talking to two big guys." And obviously, out of shock, Viner is trying to get more information from his boys. So he then drives them to the police station, and they were separated for questioning. Robin said he saw a guy wearing all black and one guy wearing gray sweatpants, but they weren't listening to him. So he said that both of them stabbed Kevin in his stomach, but there were no stabs. So he might just be a child and he might have just gotten the details mixed up. That was what the police thought. So his brother in the other room said Robin told him he witnessed Kevin's murder, and when he told his mom, she had a panic attack, being scared that the person would come back for Robin. The police wanted to jog Robin's memory, so they took him back to the crime scene, but his stories kept changing, leaving the officers even more confused. They also took him through the neighborhood, knocking on doors to see if he could find a familiar face to the people he saw that day, but he would pick someone, then change his mind afterwards, and then pick someone again and change his mind again afterwards, making it obvious that he was just pointing at random people and not sure of what he was saying. Eventually, Christian said he saw the murderers. Christian is Robin's elder brother, by the way. So Christian said he saw the murderers too. and that Kevin had gotten into a fight with one of the foreign children. So the police went to pick up 8 children that were seen playing around the area on that same Sunday as Kevin's death. They narrowed it down to 2 children called Mario and Maurice and picked them from school straight to the police station. When they were questioned, they gave evasive answers, making the police think they were guilty, but when handprints on the stick was tested with theirs, there were no matches. So they also searched their houses for any evidence that would link them to Kevin, but to no avail, as there was absolutely nothing there. 1 month into the investigation, the police felt even more pressured. So they went as far as placing wiretaps in Robin's home because they were convinced that they knew something about the murders, and the father was cooperative, reporting back anything that the boys had said in the house. But the story was always changing. Today it's a young man, tomorrow it's an old man, next week it's a middle-aged man. The only constant in their story was the floating jetty, but his body had no evidence of being dragged. So it was very confusing for the police at this time, because do these boys even know what they're saying? So Robin was at dinner with his family and he randomly said, Christian did it. His mom was beyond shocked and decided to call the police to report this. Their dad asked Christian, did you really do it? And Christian said, yes. 2 months in, there was a hired psychologist for the case who deals with cases and when people forget traumatic events, said Robin and Christian had repressed memory and was trying to make the boys comfortable enough to remember and give him details. Robin and Christian's father couldn't handle the fact that his 2 sons were being interrogated as murder suspects, so he ended up in a psych ward. The police still found their way there to ask him more questions about his sons, and the only important detail the police could pick up was the fact that Christian had drawn a picture of a body floating near a jetty. After weeks of interrogation, the police came to the conclusion that the boys might have been playing with Kevin on the jetty, and an argument most likely broke out, and then Christian pushed him in the water, and that's what led to Kevin's death. But because of trauma, they had repressed memory of the situation, so they locked it out of their memory, and that is what the brain tends to do when you cannot accept something has happened because it is too traumatic. The fact that his death was ruled out as an object pressed on his neck was still in noting, by the way. This time, the police took both Christian and Kevin to the crime scene and gave them a doll to reenact what happened. That's when Christian broke down crying, saying he wouldn't know because he wasn't there, and it was Robin that pushed Kevin in the water after a fight. You can just imagine how frustrated the police was at this point, and the police just sent them back home. So the boys were basically just changing their stories, and it is so obvious that I don't know at this point whether they were there, whether it was actually repressed memories. It was just very confusing because they were taking the police officers in circles, and the police officers were so desperate to know anything that they could because there was a lot of pressure on them in the society, and it was just very confusing also and very scary for those of them that were living in the neighborhood. The news of Kevin had still not died down even after weeks in the community because the atmosphere was very tense and people believed that a murderer was still on the loose. But randomly on the 6th of October, Christian breaks down again and told investigators that Kevin didn't die in the jetty and that what had really happened was that the 3 of them were playing soccer in the field when an argument broke out, and they, that's Christian and Robin, began hitting him, and he somehow ran to the lakeside where he fell down after chasing him and somehow ended up on his back. Christian then ran to him and grabbed a stick and pressed it against his neck. Robin ran to check if he was okay by pinching his neck, but he saw that Kevin was already dead. In panic, they both lift and carry him to the water, and that was when Kevin's clothes got half wet. The next day rolls around, and the news that Kevin's murderers were identified spread like wildfire, and of course, their identities, because it was a very close neighborhood, so people already knew who the police were investigating more. The community is also a closed one, so it's not like the police was trying to let their identities known. It just got known based on investigations and who obviously was getting interrogated more than others. The locals wanted nothing to do with the boys and their families, to the extent that the family had to move to a treatment facility because of fear of revenge. Robin and Christian couldn't grasp the situation and kept asking when they could go back home. And in an instance, Robin even asked when he'll be able to see his bike again, which was very weird to me, but because he's so young, it's kind of expected. In the facility, Robin and Christian are now being checked for any brain damages or if they could be a danger to society in future. Program Staircase also got introduced to them to help them understand what they had done and how to get back into society normally. They were also put on daily therapy sessions to help them process what had happened because they had believed that they were going through a lot mentally for them to have repressed memories. 5 months in this facility, Robin calls the police to tell them his dad actually was the one that told him not to tell the police anything. The police obviously is going to take anything they can find to make it seem like they are doing their job. So they take Robin out of the facility and put him in foster care. But no one wanted to adopt Robin once they found out that he had background of being a murderer, and no one wanted a murderer in their homes. So their dad actually denied having told the boys anything and even insisted that it was a lie, which kind of makes sense because if it was true, he wouldn't have driven the boys to the station or even helped the police. Would he have? I don't think so. So they were eventually removed from the facility and put under the care of their parents again, but separately. The kids weren't sent to jail because it was believed that they were too young for that, so they were just being supervised in their various homes. Robert almost committed suicide at one point because he felt like his life was nothing, while Christian did not want to dwell on the past, so he basically was just living life like nothing had happened. He actually was having sleepless nights. He woke up in panic sometimes, and he was also very afraid of the dark after that incident. Christian randomly wakes up one day and tells the police that everything he said to them when he was younger isn't true and that he invented everything. But the police aren't giving him the time of day because they explained to him and his mom that he gave very detailed descriptions that only the killer could possibly know. So the mom asked the police officers for the transcripts of the case, but her request. Now, all this information coming out was a lot for Kevin's dad, as you can imagine. And he said in an interview, for 20 years, I thought it was murder, and now it looks like it was an accident. Believing something and everything changes is very hard. And I can just imagine how Kevin's dad feels, because imagine feeling like you have brought justice to your son's or your child's murder and just find out that everything was a lie after all and he has never been brought to justice. The police still try to find out if there was any hope on finding who killed Kevin, and the prosecutor said we most likely will never be able to uncover what happened to Kevin. Robin and his family created a Kevin Foundation that rewards 2 scholarships a year for troubled teens, with permission from Kevin's parents, obviously, and to just hold out respect for Kevin. The boys did not let this go, as every briefing day, they called the police officers, investigators, and psychologists that handled the case and to discuss about the false accusations that they claimed on these boys at a very young age. And they all denied having anything to do that was wrong in this case, and they never apologized to either of them, which is very weird, and it's not like they need it. They don't need your apology, okay? They just wanted to make it clear to you guys that you did the wrong thing and to avoid it from happening to others. So in 2022, the Sweden state decided that when they make mistakes, they fix it. So they rewarded the boys with 1 million Sweden money. And right now, Robin and Christian are both fathers now, and they refuse to be bitter about the situation that haunted them. And that is the end of the Kevin Hjalmarsson's case. Who do you guys think did it? I 100% believe that it is Felix. I mean, not even up to a year later, you're already in the same lake area, behind the same shared trees, and you're trying to rape a young boy. What are the odds? And they, according to what people said, the library was now open. Come on. I don't know how the police skipped this. And the fact that Felix is not even his real name, spare me that. Spare me that. Spare me. Every evidence is just pointing to him. I would be shocked if it wasn't him, but they've already missed it, and I don't know if they could even know where Felix is, because the fact that it's not even his real name is crazy. It's weird. Meaning that they probably just don't know his whereabouts right now, or his real name, or where he could be. I don't know. I have no idea. But that's the end of this case, guys, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.